That is very interesting, because when I think of my brothers who live in Elkhorn and they're talking about daycare for their kids and just the commitment you have to make up front with the daycare facility, and the number of your kids impacts where you're at on the waiting list, and then what you're paying for it. It's like, wow, I think you could quit your job and stay home with your kids at that point. So again, how that rolls into this one is making it quality yet affordable daycare, so that mom or dad can continue with their career or do whatever they're doing, so that when the kids do go to school, because if you're talking about if you had two kids and they're 2 years in age apart from each other, they're going to be in preschool by age 4, right? An all-day preschool. So you're really only asking for, if the parent stays home, about a 4 or 5 year in-home commitment. Well, they're not going to want to quit their career and then try and jump back into it. So if you can provide that daycare, and the big thing is, and Matt Weber and I have talked about this, is trust. The confidence in that where I'm dropping my kid off, they will be nurtured, they will be cared for, and maybe they're a little bit smarter when they get done, and maybe they have a little bit more empathy when they get done there too. Not that you totally want to take that role away from a parent, but you definitely want to be a team in supporting how that kid's going to develop in those ways. And so when you mention what's being laid on teachers in schools anymore, is they're kind of getting all that laid on them. Like, well, do you have a social emotional program too? Because these kids need to learn how to handle their emotions. And as a parent, I'm somewhat offended by that. It's like, that's my job. Like, that's my job. Like, helping tying shoes, that's my job. Teaching to ride a bike, that's my job. If you guys want to support me with that, I think that's great. But I think a lot of that is getting laid on schools, that, well, how many meals do you provide at your school, and how much social emotional do you do, and you do all these other things. It's a lot for a teacher to do. And so when you go to a classroom teacher that has kids with multiple needs throughout the class, and then say, well, can you differentiate? Can you change the instruction to meet all the different needs? And by the way, here's your new social emotional curriculum that you need to fit into the day amongst all the standards. And then you get legislation that says, oh, and by the way, you guys will test all K-3 students on a standardized test 3 times a year to determine their reading level. And if they don't make the level, you're going to do an individualized reading improvement plan for each child that doesn't make it. That's a lot on a teacher. And so the landscape is changing. And when you talk about small towns and what they're offering, and when parents are considering, like, will I be here, will I be there, they're going to look at the school, they're going to look at resources within town, they're going to look at daycare, and now you start getting into club activities, right? It's not anymore just that you play for your town. It's like, well, but if you want to be really good, you're going to join Team Supreme or Team Excellent, and it's all about what you're willing to pay, to get on there. And so now you're starting to see rural communities create their own club teams, their own travel teams. So it's really interesting how things are changing, because when you and I are kids, there wasn't any club. You went and played ball right there.